Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today, Congressman Mark Green from the 7th District. Congressman, you want to talk a lot about some of the bills you're putting in, particularly some nonpartisan efforts. One is sort of speaks in some ways to the scandal that we're seeing in the country over the admissions problems going into elite colleges, the cheating that was apparently going on. You have a bill that talks about kids to college. It apparently would take the government out of the student loan program to a large extent and give it over to the schools and colleges themselves. Are the colleges and universities ready to do that? Or, what difference are we making except for who holds the note?
That's essentially a correct observation, but the schools are definitely, the schools that really want to help students are absolutely ready for that. And they, are incentivized now to make sure that the student gets a great job when they get out. Because they're going to get, the way we've set it up, they basically create an agreement between them and the students income after graduation, they get a percentage of that. So
are the students guaranteed a job that's going to give them the kind of income that will pay back a certain percentage?
There's no guarantees, right? But the school is now incentivized. Right now they're not incentivized. They're incentivized to collect the loan backed by the federal government, and
are there grade point averages the student have to have in order to qualify to get into one of these agreements? Do they have to keep a certain grade point average while they're in school?
No, because it isn't a loan from the government, right? So if the student graduates,
it's a loan to the university.
The loan makes the university, yeah.
But the
university makes the loan.
Is the university going to say, well, you have to keep a 3.0 grade point average, or you don't get this loan?
I think we'd leave that up to the university.
Interest rates? What's that going to be? I don't see anything in
well, there isn't interest rates because it's technically not. I mean, you're calling it a loan.
This is a no interest loan.
And essentially, yeah.
It's not.
Well, I mean, it isn't no interest. They're getting a percentage of the individual's income.
So, yeah. but when they don't pay it back at all until they get out of school,
and they get a job,
and then they pay back the principal. They don't have any interest to pay on that. So in other words, the university's loaning it to them at zero interest. The university's not making money off the loan as the money comes back in.
Right. It's an interest, a percentage over time, right? So they may wind up making more than they would in interest if they get that student a great job.
Do you have a companion bill for this in the Senate? Who are the sponsors for you?
Not yet, but we're shopping it.
If a student defaults on the loan, then what happens?
Well, the school just isn't paid during that time when the individual, doesn't have a job or can't make their payments.
But there's no foreclosure. You don't wind up getting your.
No, the school's taking the risk. That's right.
They don't come back and garnish the money that they're supposed to be paying you out of the job that you have. You can go to court and get garnishes.
We probably could set that up in the bill, yeah.
But at this point, that still sounds like there's parts of the bill that are kind of a work in progress. Another bill that you're sponsoring goes a lot to what you're hearing a lot, particularly Democratic presidential candidates, about expanding the size of the Supreme Court. Most people, I think, are surprised to know there's not a size set within the Constitution itself. It's been 9 justices for a number of years.
1869.
You want to put an amendment that basically says let's keep it at 9 forever.
Right.
What's magic about 9?
Well, what the left is trying to do is they're trying to stack, and I mean the elite, sort of leadership of the far left. They're trying to stack the court with activist judges who will interpret the Constitution as if it were a living document. Really, that started in the Warren Court in the 1950s, but essentially what that means...
It started with Franklin Roosevelt in the 1930s.
Well,
he tried to
we're talking about two different things. You're right. He did try to pack the court, but the concept of a living Constitution where the justices can interpret the Constitution based on what they think it ought to say. Not what it says, but what they think it ought to say. That started during the Warren Court. And what that does is it basically means that 5 justices, a majority of the Supreme Court, can undo anything that the legislative branch does. That's a violation of what the founders meant when they spread the power amongst 3 branches of government. It will undo the legislative branch.
But by putting this constitutional amendment in, I mean, you're sort of further politicizing the whole court process. There's probably very little chance it's going to get out of Congress. It takes a 2/3 vote of both houses, and you couldn't get that in the House.
That's right, but let's talk about Nancy Pelosi. She has lived her life in the legislative branch. Her body of work over the course of her life has been in the legislative branch. Is she really going to do something that undoes the power of the legislative branch? I don't think so. I think we can go to her and say, look, ma'am, what you do in here with this activist judges on the court is going to undo the power of the legislative branch. We can't do that. We can't have that. I think she might buy it.
You're going to get 2/3 vote in both houses of Congress and then send it out to the
Well, we
states.
wouldn't be doing it if we didn't think it could happen. We're going to try very hard to make it happen.
Let's also talk a little bit about something that continues to come up as saying it's going to happen any day now, and that's the release of the Mueller investigation. You're dealing with that for some of the oversight committees that you're dealing with in terms of all the probes that are going on in Washington. The House recently passed a resolution to request that whatever Robert Mueller reports be completely released to the public when it's made available. Nobody voted against the resolution. Did you vote against it? You obviously did vote against it.
No.
Did you vote for it?
Well, I voted for it.
Well, the president has said this probe is fake news. It's a witch hunt. Do you want a witch hunt fully disclosed?
Sure, let's see what he's found. Because I'm thinking it's what's not there that'll be really good to know. So yeah, I'm hopeful that they'll release the report. Let's see it. We've spent millions of American taxpayer dollars to go do this investigation. Let's see the results.
Congressman Mark Green's our guest on Inside Politics. Back to continue our conversation after you watch these messages.